Welcome back to the 815 Exchange. I am your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336 once again for episode, 45 of the 815 Exchange. And my goodness, this is an absolutely stacked, there's so much that happened in sports. So much that happened in entertainment. This is a stack. It kind of makes up for the past couple weeks where I might not have had as much, even though we still, made do with what we had. This week we have a bunch. We have absolutely plenty to talk about, and I'm very, 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 very excited to get straight to it. But of course, as always, as you know if you've been here before, but if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the 815 Exchange, there's timestamps included because this is probably going to be a very long episode. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna be like, this is gonna be a shorter episode. No. This is probably going to be a longer episode. And as always, there's timestamps included. So if you're trying to get to like soccer or entertainment or maybe even the track and field segment, if you're looking for that, feel free to skip right to it. That's why I've included it. Social media links also, if you want to follow me on Twitter. I just had a video hit 200. I haven't checked this morning because if I'm being honest, it's 6 a.m. in the morning when I'm recording this, which is much earlier than when I usually record, but gotta do what you gotta do. But I did have a video hit over 200K views, but last time I checked it on TikTok. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, you can check me out there. And really just all my social medias. Pretty active on Twitter also. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to waste any more time. And we're going to start off with combat sports, as we usually do when we have one of these major UFC events. We're going to start off with combat sports. Which means we're going to talk about, first off, the UFC middleweight champion Israel, the Last Stylebender, Adesanya, took on Marvin. I guess we're calling him the Orc now. The Italian Dream, Vittori. Marvin Vittori. It was Izzy versus Vittori 2. Their first matchup, split decision. Vittori you can say Vittori gave, I guess, up to that point, Izzy his hardest fight yet. Even though it was only Izzy's second fight in the UFC, if we're being, realistic, we're being honest here. So, there's some give and take with that. But Vittori worked his way up, admittedly got better, became one of the best middleweights in the world. But, Izzy he's simply on a different level. He's on a different level. He's styled on Marvin Vittori, the leg kicks. And then Vittori decided not to check a single one. So Izzy just picked him apart with leg kicks, completely outstruck him. And then when Marvin was able to take him down, he was able to get back up. That showed that, and one of my big questions heading into this fight was simply, was Izzy going to evolve? We always talk about how he evolves as a fighter and he bends styles, hence the nickname, the Stylebender. Would Izzy be able to evolve? I think this was going to determine him whether he could be on that path to all-time greatness or if he was just going to be a great champ, right? He was a great champ, blah, blah, blah. That was it. We needed to see him evolve, and we saw it. I thought it was going to happen, and we saw it. His ground game was much better, and I think it had a lot to do with Vittori. Jan was much bigger than Izzy in terms of strength, in terms of weight. Even though Vittori was probably weighed in on fight day more than Izzy, the strength disadvantage wasn't as big, if any. If I'm being honest, because even when they were in the clinch, Izzy was still able to work through that and get out of that and make some positive stuff happen. So yeah, the takedown defense could have been better, but it was pretty good. He was great getting off his back. He did a great job. Great job by Eugene and the rest of those guys, City Kickboxing. Great job from his camp to work on that, improve on that. and to have that show up when they needed it, especially with a guy again like Vittori, where that's his bread and butter. I mean, and that was his bread and butter. He had no type of creativity in his game plan, and then had the audacity, in the words of Valkyrie, to say that he won the fight, which I don't understand. I do not understand how you could have thought you won the fight. That was pretty much a clear UD, 5 rounds to none, in my opinion. Even those moments he had where he did get the takedown, he got stood up and then lost the striking battle. So Vittori, a little delusional in my opinion. Think he should fight maybe, I don't know, like Costa next. Costa's open. I don't know what the deal with Paulo Costa is, but I think that would be a good matchup. The last two people that Izzy schooled. Of course, Izzy called out Rob, and I think that's the matchup to make. I think everybody knows that is the matchup to make, and that's the matchup every UFC fan wants, and I think it's the matchup we're going to get as well. But good win for the Stylebender. Did what he did. In the co-main event, we had the assassin baby. Shout out to Brandon Moreno, and shout out to Mexico. Shout out to Mexico because Brandon Moreno takes home the flyweight strap in a complete domination. A complete domination of Davison Figueiredo in 3 rounds. The first fight between these two was an absolute barn burner. One of the fights of the year happened in January, but this one was not as close. Not at all. Not at all as close. Moreno, I don't know if it was just Figgy was off, but Moreno was on. Moreno was absolutely on, striking. Even Figgy, where they talked about in the lead up on the embeddeds, talking about him getting back to his BJJ roots. Even on the ground, Moreno was in control. He was in control of that entire fight, and then he subbed Figueiredo. So shout out, big shout out to Brandon for Moreno, and he's just a great. You love to see it. His insane path to the title. I mean, he was cut at one point by the UFC in 2018 when they were starting to usher the flyweight division out. Now he's the champion of that division. He did an unbelievable job. He did. I mean, it was unbelievable. Couldn't happen to a better guy. He's an angel. I mean, everybody likes him. Even the people that are like villains, so to speak, in the UFC, they love him. So I think this will contribute quite a bit to his Lego collection. He was also talking about on the embedded. And yeah, should be a great champ. Flyweight's still in kind of like an interesting spot in terms of who and contenders and what makes up the division. So it'll be interesting. I think Fig won't go for the trilogy. I think he should move up to 135, and I think he will. I think that weight cut is just killing him. It's honestly killing him. It's so hard for him to get to 125, and I think 135 would be more natural, and it would be more effective for him fighting. I think that might... I'm not saying it did. I'm not making an excuse for Figgy and his performance. I think Brandon was just a better fighter. He was a better fighter on Saturday. But I think Figgy going to 135, I'm not saying he's going to beat Jan and those guys, but I think we'll see the return of the old Figgy, and I think he'll do better there and be more effective at this stage in his career. But shout out to Brandon Moreno. Huge win. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. Leon Edwards, my goodness. Supposed to be a statement win against one of the top guys in terms of popularity. Supposed to boost him to take on and be fed to Kamaru Usman. That's what this fight was supposed to be. Really what happened was Leon pretty much dominates for 4 rounds and then survives. And I mean barely. He barely survives round 5 Nate Diaz. Because, I mean, it was like you knew it was coming. You knew Nate was going to do something Nate. And, of course, it was a Stockton slap Stockton slap in a straight left that nearly stopped Leon Edwards and nearly crushed his hope and dreams of challenging for a UFC welterweight championship. So now welterweight's still stuck in this weird position. I mean, he can still, don't get me wrong, he can absolutely still take on Kamaru. We can still have that fight. I got no qualms with it. I'm fine with it. Who else are we going to have Kamaru fight at this point if we're being honest? But you're supposed to win. Nate's not even ranked. You're supposed to win. Finish him. He didn't have that killer instinct when he could have. He should have closed the show. Make something happen, Leon. It was a dominant win, but it wasn't like a dominant win. And then round 5 happened, and he lost all control, and he barely made it. Barely escaped. Now imagine what Kamaru Usman's going to do to him. Leon's very good, but it's like he's missing something. And I feel like it's just that killer instinct in terms of just being able to finish somebody off, or if you're dominating somebody, you really dominate them. You really dominate them. The way that an Usman does, right? You don't just play with them, you don't just toy with them, you don't just, help them prevail and then coast to a victory. You're trying to put this guy down. Trying to end this. And Leon didn't. He wasn't. And Nate, if not for a time, possibly could have beat him, and then Nate would be fighting Kamaru Usman, which would have been much worse. But shout out to Nate, he's a legend. Naturally, he pulled something off. He was talking about that party after. I don't know how that went, but probably went well. I mean, it's Nate Diaz. Apparently, Nick's getting back in it, so we'll see how that goes. Leon, we'll see what the situation at welterweight is. It's so back and forth. Quickly now here, Bilal retires Damian Maia. Damian Maia, one of the best BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys to ever do it in UFC. I think he retired or is retiring after this one. Bilal was in control of the whole fight. But Damian's pretty much a one-trick pony at this age. I think he's 43. Had a long career, one of the best to not win a title, so all the respect due to Damian Maia. Paul Craig almost ripped Jamal Hill's arm off. I was going crazy about this. Going crazy. I have never in my life seen a man's... I don't know how that wasn't broken, by the way. Only a dislocation, but that was a horrific dislocation. That was graphic. Absolutely graphic. And I don't know what photo I showed for this, but I apologize if it's... I probably should have done an NSFW warning, because that was bad. That was bad. And the ref is probably never reffing a UFC fight again. That was... I mean, Craig had him in the armbar, then turned a full 360, did a roll. And somehow, I was like, there's no way his arm is still attached. There's no way. But he was still in there fighting, and then he had him in like a triangle with his head sticking out, and then his arm just kind of dangling right here while he hammer-fisted him. It was brutal. And for those that are bloodthirsty, it was beautiful, but it was absolutely brutal. It was completely savage. But shout out to Paul Craig. Taking the arm, he could have done much worse, if I'm being honest. He really could have took that arm off, but showed some mercy there. Was trying to get the ref's attention that, hey, yo, this guy's arm is done. You need to call this fight off, but nonetheless, didn't happen. But we'll see how long Jamal Hill's out with that dislocated arm. But yeah, that was one of the... It was a bad... I don't know what it is about these cards so far. With all the... I mean, I think this is 3 cards in a row where we've had injuries, like graphic injuries happen. So I don't know what's going on this year. I don't know what's in the water. But it's been something different. But shout out to Paul Craig. He gets the win. To quickly summarize the rest of UFC 263, let's see. We had Brad Riddell and Drew Dober in an absolute firecracker. Probably, I think that was fight of the night as well. An insane 3-rounder. Shout out to Brad Riddell. City Kickboxing, once again, know what they're doing. Lauren Murphy beat JoJo Calderwood. Which appears like Murphy is going to get fed next to Valentina. Even though she's on a nice little win streak, I don't think she's got anything from Valentina, of course. McKinney with that 7-second knockout in his debut nearly got Masvidal. Nearly got him. Nearly the fastest KO in UFC history. And then it looked like he blew his knee out on the celebration, so that sucks. But congrats on the debut. Chase Hooper, everybody's favorite son, or excuse me, Ben Askren's favorite son, took a L. You can see he's getting better, but he might just be too young. Might be too green. The grappling's there, but the striking and the rest, the full package, not really there. It's not really there with Chase, if we're being honest. And even though I love him, I love what he could be, he's got a lot to work on. He's got a lot to improve on if he's going to reach those levels. And the potential that we believe he has. He's got a long way to go. But he's only 21. But don't know if he should be in the UFC at this point of his career. Not somebody, maybe brought back in the future, but to knock off some of that green, I think it's almost like in the NJPW how people take excursions away from the company and learn the trade before they come back and become stars. It's like Hooper needs to take an excursion out, win some out there, become a more well-rounded fighter, then come back and we'll see what he can do. But that was UFC 263. Not a lot of finishes. But honestly, it was a good card. It was a good card. I thought it was going to be a very good, card. But honestly, very good overall card. Not one of my events of the year. I wouldn't give it that. But it was a very good card, and it was very satisfying. It felt like we were in a little bit of drought for the UFC, for whatever reason. Those breaks in between major events, it kind of is like that. But that was UFC 263. And now to quickly to go through boxing, because there was boxing this week. Shakur Stevenson took on Nakatani. Stevenson, one of the best prospects, one of the top young guys in boxing. He's at 130 now. Nakatani was not a test. Please, somebody give Shakur Stevenson a challenge. I think he should take on Jamal Herring for the 130 strap, for the WBO 130 strap. I think that's the obvious matchup to make. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Shaq completely dominates. He apologized because it wasn't really a very exciting fight, if I'm being honest. Tio fights George Kambosos this weekend. That should be a good one. We'll see we'll really see if Tio is on that next level. Kambosos has been talking a lot of trash. We'll see how that Triller setup is and, see what goes on there. We had Austin McBroom and the celebrities. They took on, it was the YouTubers versus the TikTokers. Austin McBroom and really just all the YouTubers dominated the whole event. I think they did a clean sweep. Even Gibb over Taylor Holder, that was egregious. An egregious robbery. Even though Holder had the talent, he didn't throw it all. Let's be honest, he didn't throw it all. Gibb won the fight. But yeah, Austin McBroom beats Bryce Hall by KO, or what they were calling a KO. Austin was a better boxer than I thought he was going to be. Bryce wasn't that good. I didn't really expect him to be that good. But yeah, Austin dominated. Deji does not need a box ever again. He really doesn't need a box ever again. Hang it up. It's not for you. Making YouTube videos, that's for you. But boxing, throwing hands, that's not for you. But shout out to Vinny. Now to move on to the NBA, as we're getting closer and closer to that conference finals. But we have plenty of business to attend to. And this is quite another episode of, here's what I told you on this, podcast, this show. Here's things I told you in the past. And what do you know? I was right. So welcome to another episode of Chris telling you the future before it happens. Episode 45. Phoenix takes out Denver 125-118. Are we really surprised? Even though, if I'm being honest, I'm going to be honest here. That ejection, and I put this in a group chat. That ejection was terrible. That was terrible. You cannot eject the MVP in the game that's probably his last game this season. He's got 22-11 up to this point. You do not eject him for that. You don't eject anybody for that. But you cannot eject him for that. He got all ball anyway. He got all ball. Yes, he came down. Yes, he winded up and he grazed my guy Cameron Payne on the nose. He still got all ball. Sometimes when you go for a steal attempt in pursuit of the ball, You make contact with somebody. It's not the end of the world. It wasn't. Maybe give that a flagrant foul. Like, and I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, right? But an ejection? Come on. Come on. But anyways, Suns, as expected. I mean, this Nuggets team had no Jamal Murray. So I'm not sure what you were thinking if you thought Denver was winning this. The point guard had 37. Book had 34 and 11. They really led him in this game. They did a great job. For Denver, Gordon and MPJ tried to pick up the slack, but it wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. Suns outlast them. They get the sweep. They break out the broomstick. So congratulations to Phoenix. And it looks like they'll be taking on, well, we really don't know because this series just got a lot more interesting. And I'm talking about the Clippers and the Jazz. After the Jazz stormed to a 2-0 lead, the Clippers did what they always do, and all of a sudden turned into who we think the Clippers should be after they go down 0-2. It's weird. It's weird how this Clippers team functions. It's like they work better than being up in a series. No. Up in a series, can't do that. But if we start up 0-2, it's on. It's on. It's time to play basketball. It's like they have to give up those 2 games every time just so they can, really turn it on. Kawhi, however, regardless of whatever the series is, whatever the score is, has been hooping. He's been one of the best playoff performers this year, and he's really building a reputation as one of the best playoff performers of this generation. He had 34 and 12 in this game. PG-13, no more PG-13 slander. Listen, no more Paul George slander. Pandemic P looks like a thing of the past. He's Pfizer P now. He's reformed. He's been vaccinated from him being absolutely garbage like last year. It's not happening this year. He had 31. So when both superstars for the Clippers show up big time, this is what happens. Spider, who Stephen A. Smith had the audacity to call the greatest player in Jazz history, which is ridiculous. Spider's very good, but he is not on Karl Malone or John Stockton legacy levels yet. I mean, let's slow down here. Spider had 30, but he's been hobbled in the past 2 games, and that's reason for concern, especially with the Clippers, how they came out in Game 3. This Game 4 is going to be pivotal. I think it's really going to be pivotal and really determine how this series goes. If the Jazz go up 3-1, okay, they might be playing Phoenix. But if they go down 2-2, they're in trouble. They are in trouble. This Clippers team looks like they're not going down without a fight. But, this is one of the most interesting series I think we got left. And probably going to be one of the most interesting of the playoffs just because I could see this going 6-7 games. Especially if Spider is not too hobbled. If he's hobbled, then of course I think it's done. But with the way that Jazz team is set up, I mean, it's a really good Jazz team. But you got to deal with Kawhi. You got to figure out a way to stop Kawhi. And you can't just have PG just going off also. So it's going to be interesting. I feel like the Clippers got momentum. I kind of feel like they're, steering the ship once again in the right direction. And I honestly think they might pull this off. But we'll see. I'm not going to make a true prediction. But momentum's definitely shifting. Over in the East, I've talked about it. The ISO gang said they were unbeatable. And I was correct. I said, nobody's stopping them. Nobody is stopping them. The only thing I said that could stop the ISO gang and the Brooklyn Nets was injuries. Said this for months. It was the only scenario in which we were going to get a truly interesting playoffs without the looming threat of the Nets just kind of going on a rampage through every other team. And well, ladies and gentlemen, it happened. And now the series is 2-2. Milwaukee gets the win in Game 4, 107-96 in a game they absolutely had to have. KD had 28, 13, and 5, but PJ Tucker was putting it on him. I think KD shot 9 for 28 or something like that. Tucker played great defense against him. Giannis had 34 and 12, which it seems like he averages, if I'm being honest at this point. It feels like he averages about 34 and 12 here. He does need to learn how to shoot free throws, though. The timing is ridiculous. It's ridiculous how he's taking that much time. Listen, I get the routine, but listen, bro. Catch it. Boom, boom, boom. Take your deep breath. Bang it out. That's under 10 seconds. You don't need to be taking 15 seconds for a free throw. That's ridiculous. But it looks like he might get his Purple Heart that I mentioned a couple episodes ago. And on Twitter, Kyrie with the sprained ankle, that's big. That's big. Because that means the Nets are down to just KD, and that makes them much, much more human than they have been. And much more susceptible to losing, as we've seen. This is now a tied series. Milwaukee could possibly pull this off. Do I think they're legitimate and will win or be the favorites if they knock off the ISO gang? Do I think they're championship favorites? No. In the event that the ISO gang dies off here, I think the championship favorites are the Phoenix Suns. I think that's who I would say is probably going to win the finals. If the ISO gang is truly, done for good here. But we'll see. I won't rule them out. We'll see if Harden can come back. We'll see how badly Kyrie's ankle is going to bother him. But yeah, this series just got a whole lot more interesting, and so did the playoffs. Other series in the East, we have Philly and Atlanta. Philly got the winning game 3, 127-111. Joel Embiid had 27, 9, and 8. Trey had 28 himself. But yeah, Philly looks like they've got this back under control. After whatever you want to call whatever game one was, they've gotten it back under, gotten their feet back under them, and they're doing what they do. Sixers are doing what they do. They've been good the past 2 games. I think they pretty much close this out. I think they take control here, and I think they're going. I think they're going to get Atlanta out. I don't think Atlanta's got enough here. I think this is where the Cinderella story ends, and Philly makes it to the conference finals. I think they finish it off in the next 2 to 3 games. But, yeah, Embiid, he's hooping. He's hooping. A lot of people, criticize him for his playoff performances and for the Sixers team for not showing up. Well, he's showing up. Embiid is showing up. He's showing up in this series. Clint Capella, he's winning that matchup. So we'll see if Embiid can keep it up. I expect him to. And, yeah, I think the Sixers get it done and they'll join Phoenix in the conference finals very, very, very soon. Now to head over quickly to the soccer segment. There's no Champions League, but we got plenty of international football. We got Euros and the Copa America going on. No Gold Cup for my, U.S. men's national team. We talked about them last week. We talked about Pulisic, and I literally labeled the title of the episode the coldest photo ever, because that was the coldest photo ever. But nonetheless, a little bit different. We got the European and South American flavors this week. And probably for the next couple weeks, if I'm being honest, we're going to have this soccer segment. Starting off with a little bit of down news and, a little bit more somber. But happy that he's, I guess, okay, as far as we can say okay now. But the big story of the week in Euros was Christian Eriksen, star midfielder for Inter Milan, star midfielder for Denmark. Probably their best player. Certainly the most recognizable Denmark player, had cardiac arrest in one of the craziest events I think I've seen on a soccer field. Went into cardiac arrest on the field, passed out, but luckily in this case he was playing, as crazy as that may sound, because he had medical facilities and medical personnel so close and so on demand that they were able to resuscitate him on the field. And, we're not, unfortunately, I'm not doing a memorial for Christian Eriksen, on this episode. So, shout out to the real heroes. Shout out to the medical personnel that saved his life. Big shout out to them, because that really would have been a dark mark on the Euros. Really would have been a dark mark on the sport. Wasn't COVID related, wasn't vaccine related for the weirdos that want to make everything about, the vaccines is, blah, 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 trying to kill you or has a chip or any of that stupidness or ridiculousness. None of that. Dude just went into cardiac arrest as far as we know. It just, it just happened. And super duper scary moment. Tough for them to, try to come back and play after that. Finland got the win. I forget who scored the goal. Kept it super respectful. There was tributes throughout the week. Romelu Lukaku for Belgium, who also, I have to, talking about Lukaku here, who's become one of the best strikers in the world. He's living up to his potential. I don't know what Inter has unlocked in him, but he's been dominant this past year and a half. He's been dominant as a striker. He had the brace. He did a tribute to Christian, his teammate for Inter Milan. Looks like he's going to be a menace for that Belgian team, who should be contenders. I mean, this is probably one of the last big tournaments for their golden generation. This and I think next year's World Cup. So one of the last chances to really get that international title that they desire. But Lukaku did his thing. England faced Croatia. Raheem Sterling showed up. Raheem Sterling finished a goal. And it was a pretty nice finish, so shout out to Sterling. Southgate made some questionable choices in his selection of the team, but it paid off, got the win over Croatia. Netherlands and the Ukraine played an insane game, an absolutely insane game. Every single goal, highest scoring game with all goals in the second half in Euros history. All goals happened in the second half. It was kicked off by Gianji Wijnaldum, Ginny. Headed to PSG. Just signed with PSG. That's a huge pickup for PSG in that midfield. Mbappe and Neymar need service. Wijnaldum will provide that. David Alaba was magic for Austria in the 3-1 win versus North Macedonia. And if I go to the Copa America, which kicked off yesterday, so not as much to talk about as Euros, but Brazil 3-0'd Venezuela. Neymar was dominant. He was great. Gabigol also did his thing, got a goal there. He chested it in. Funny relationship between that two, with Gabigol either dating or he used to date Neymar's sister. We know how close Neymar and his sister are. But, yeah, that was soccer. That was an interesting week in soccer. Interesting week in Euros. Glad Eriksson is okay. And, of course, we'll see as the rest of the group stage goes on in both of these tournaments and see how they develop. And, of course, we'll talk about it here on the 8:15 Exchange. We're going to quickly go to the NHL segment with the remaining time I have left in this kind of 20-minute time period I got on my timer here and for this camera. The New York Islanders. We have reached the conference finals, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Islanders took out Boston in 6 games. Shout out to Brock Nelson for those 2 goals. They were the ones who, I mean, honestly, in a shock. I had Boston winning. In the ways that I've been completely right in the NBA, haven't really missed there. I missed. I missed in the NHL. I had some upsets, had it happen, but that's the beauty of sports. But the Islanders got the Lightning, and well, I would probably pick the Lightning, and I still believe the Lightning will win. Maybe I should pick the Islanders. I'm going to pick the Lightning, but maybe I need to stop, doubting the Islanders because they keep proving me wrong. And especially Matthew Barzal. He is that guy. And him and Semyon Varlamov were that guy and were those guys in this for Game 1 versus Tampa Bay. They get the win 2-1. Huge start against the Lightning team many have as the favorites probably for the champion. The defending champions, defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning. Huge Game 1 win. Really could be a tone setter for the series. Really could be a more defensive series, especially with Vasilevsky and Varley playing the way they are. I could see this being a very defensive series. But shout out to the Islanders on the win. They did a great job there. The Vegas Golden Knights took out Colorado. Colorado got this was the ultimate reverse gentleman sweep. Colorado went up 2 games and then lost 4 straight. They just completely fell apart. I haven't seen much like it. I didn't expect it to happen, certainly. But it happened. Colorado collapsed and Vegas took advantage. They took complete advantage. And now they take on the Montreal Canadiens in the conference finals as the Canadiens took out Toronto. Should be an interesting matchup. With this young Colorado team, Caulfield's been showing out, Kokiemi, and all of the talent they have there, kind of making that Cinderella run. They're the Cinderella team. Taking on this Vegas Golden Knights, who have been a perennial contender since they arrived in the NHL, since they arrived in the league. They've been one of the best teams in the league, and certainly this year look like they're one of the best teams in the league. And probably with Tampa Bay, probably the other team you would say is probably the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, I'm picking Vegas here. I think Vegas, ends Montreal. Even though as a Montreal fan, you have to be ecstatic about this young core you have reaching the conference finals so early. But I can't not. After what I just saw Vegas do to Colorado, I cannot not pick them to make it to the finals here. But should be an interesting series. We'll see if Montreal still got that magic, or for the second time, historically, for the second time in Vegas Golden Knight history, they will be headed to the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll see what happens, but that's the NHL. We have reached the halfway point, or what I'm going to call the halfway point in terms of all of my topics. Probably not the halfway point in time. We're probably more than the halfway point in time. But as always, that means we have reached the entertainment segment, and I have plenty to talk about in the entertainment segment. Loki, we've been waiting for this. We have been waiting, and I mean waiting for the series to come out. But it is finally here. Tom Hiddleston returns as Loki in his own series this time, and we're in space once again. And particularly, well, actually we're kind of out of space and out of reality. We're at the TVA, which functions kind of out of time almost, or at the end of time. We haven't really specified yet, but Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, great intro for him, great intro for the TVA. Pretty much control the timeline, which is very, very interesting. Could be some more meta stuff going on there. Also, the scene with the Infinity Stones, which I really want to talk about, that was crazy. They just had a bunch of spare Infinity Stones. They were powerless. What we just spent an entire decade building up to, fighting over, we lost characters over. Lost probably in the universe, lost millions, maybe billions of people, died or vanished for these stones, or because of these stones. And here we are in the Loki TV show, here we are with the TVA, and they're absolutely meaningless. We just have them in like a random drawer. That was crazy to see, and it was a big step in reality for Loki. And I think it's going to be a lot of good character development. It's always been good character development with Loki. But I think we're going to get a lot of it here in his own TV show. And that's a very, very, very interesting. I've been hearing some rumors about the Loki that he is hunting. Also, spoiler alert for all of this. Also, In the Heights, which I'm going to talk about here. Also, spoiler alert for that. But, yeah, Loki hunting. They've recruited him to basically hunt down Loki. Another Loki. I've heard rumors about it being a female Loki because of the posture of the character we saw in that ending scene. We'll see. I'm very interested. Of course, we'll be talking about it here on the If It's an Exchange. But it's going to be interesting. It was a good start. It's a good episode 1. Marvel hasn't missed this year. Don't expect them to miss now. In the Heights. We had a movie come out. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we have Fast and the Furious 9 coming out soon. But nonetheless, we had In the Heights. And I had to get that musical flavor, you know. I was very intrigued about the setting. I'd seen the trailer. I'd heard of In the Heights, heard of the musical. I had not seen it. I hadn't heard any of the music. I know it was Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I have to give a shout out to. Okay, Lin-Manuel the GOAT. With this and Hamilton. But In the Heights was phenomenal. This was a great movie. Not just the musical. It was a great musical, but it was a great movie. It was a great movie. Usnavi was a great character. Shout out to Anthony Ramos. He was phenomenal as the leading character, the leading role there as Usnavi. He blended into that perfectly. Vanessa, Benny, Nina. Getting to know more about those characters and really just, it was dope. In the Heights was dope. The music was good. The storyline was good. Had emotion at times, such as a particular scene which I will not spoil. But it also had the fun. It had the uplifting. It had the funny moments. It had the cool moments. It was dope. If you're a person of Latin descent or Hispanic descent, this is absolutely a must-watch movie for you. Or you have just really any, it's just like I said, if you're Hispanic or Latin or Latina descent, you should watch this movie. A great movie, uplifting that culture and just kind of showing some of a great representation of it, which it hasn't always been represented properly, but it was done justice here, and In the Heights, very good. Highly recommend it if you're looking for a movie to watch. Highly recommend watching it because it was great. It was great. Honestly, it was great. In music, it was a big week in music. We had Culture 3 drop, but I'm going to talk about that later. Polo G dropped. Hall of Fame. Honestly, if I'm being honest, this cover for this was awful. That is a terrible album cover. But I mean, Polo doesn't have the history of great album covers. But I know some people actually were. Well, I guess the majority of people like this. But I did hear some people that did not like this album. Maybe it's because I'm not a hardcore. I haven't hardcore like massively listened to Polo. I've listened to Polo. Very familiar with Polo. We've talked about Polo before here on this show. But I guess I'm not like, I haven't listened to him like a crazy amount. So maybe I'm not burnt out of his sound yet as some other people are. But I really like this album. I really like this album. I actually liked it more than, I don't know. Right now, I feel like the GOAT had higher highs as of now than Hall of Fame, but I liked the body of work that that Hall of Fame was more. I think that's the best way to put it right now. I'm still on my listens, haven't gotten to my second listen, so I'll hold off on giving a true rating to this and Culture 3. But it was a very good album. I liked it. No Return, Boom, and Bloody Canvas were my 3 standouts. I did remember that. I did get that down. I really like those songs. But we'll see. We'll see how this song either grows or does not grow on me. But I like the album. I thought it was very good. You can let me know. I know some people that didn't like it, but I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Culture 3. What people need to understand, Culture 1 is never happening. It's not happening. It happened, and it's there. If you want to listen to Culture 1, go listen to Culture 1. But that sound, that vibe that y'all keep asking for, it's not coming back. It's not. So, just kind of, I'm kind of getting tired of that. Not that I thought Culture 3 was some masterpiece, because it wasn't. It wasn't. It was solid. I liked it better than Culture 2. Even though similar to like I would have said about Polo G, I don't know if Culture 3's best songs are going to reach the heights of Culture 2's best songs. But as a body of work, it's better. Modern Day and Avalanche, I think, were my 2 standouts. Probably another one in there too. But Modern Day and Avalanche, definitely my 2 standouts on first listen. We'll see how it grows or ungrows. We'll see. People were pretty much split on this. They either liked it or they did not like it at all. So, very polarizing album. Kind of what I expected. Migos is not, they haven't been hitting at that level that they once were. I think we have to admit. But they still got it. They showed it on some of these songs that they still got it. But can they do it on a consistent basis is what we still have yet. We got to see. We still got to see here in 2021. Can they hit on a consistent basis? I think Migos Culture 3, it was solid. It was a solid album. Takeoff, got to give a shout to Takeoff because this was his album. He got off on this. Not that Offset didn't. He did too. But Takeoff, definitely, he showed up on this album for sure. So, yeah, shout out to Migos, shout out to Culture 3. If you liked it, you like it. Nothing wrong with it. If you didn't like it, you're fair in that too. Music is subjective. Music tastes different from person to person. So, something that some person might like, another person might not. That's how it is. There's objectively good stuff. There's also objectively bad stuff. But there's also times where, there's a little bit of gray area, and I think Migos and I think Culture 3 as a whole just kind of fall in that gray area right now of where people are going to like it or not. It's polarizing. It is what it is. To kick it over to a little bit of a different flavor here, Twice dropped A Taste of Love, and they did not miss. They didn't. There's not really much for me to say. They didn't miss. Alcohol Free is a great, typical Twice summer track. They did a great job with the sound. I like how they've evolved their sound. They still stay true to who they are, and who they are is Twice. but they've evolved their sound, and that's all I asked for. That's all I asked for. That's all I wanted, and they've given it to me. So shout out to Twice, shout out to JYP. Speaking of JYP, and how about a former JYP artist, former member of GOT, well, I guess he's still a member of GOT7, but they're no longer JYP. Nonetheless, Yugyeom signed with Higher Music. We were expecting R&B vibes on his first single, on his first album. Well, the first single dropped, I Want You Around feat. Devita, and it was fire. It was fire. I'm being honest. It was fire. It gave me the R&B vibes that I so desperately wanted. So yeah, shout out to Yugyeom. Music video was pretty dope for what I saw. I was kind of doing something else, if I'm being honest. I gotta be partial. Maybe I'll do a reaction about that. I'm probably gonna start doing reaction videos because I need the clout, if I'm being honest. So I'm going to absolutely sell out and do that. Whether you guys want to see it or not, but we gotta build the brand. But maybe I do a reaction video for I Want You, at least the music video portion. But Yugyeom, you did your thing. Devita, great feature on that. If you haven't listened to it already, highly, highly, highly recommend it. And now for what would normally probably be a Roundup topic, and has been a Roundup topic the entire year. So much happened in the NCAA National Championships for track and field that I decided to give it its own segment this week. Yes, shout out to all my track and field people at home watching, or all of my friends in track and field. This is for you. This is the segment for you. You get your own segment this week. LSU took home the men's title, dominant outing for them. They had Sean Burrell show up in the 400-meter hurdles. He was big time. Terrence Laird, as expected, took home the 100-meter title, though he got upset in the 200 by Joseph Fairbaum. Javon Harrison has been dominant all year, and he completes the high jump and long jump double due to special. He's been great. He's been great all year, for real. Who else from LSU? Those were the dominant ones. I think the 4x1 team also won, also cleaned up. LSU sent a bunch of athletes, did what they did, handled business. And yeah, they take home the natty in the men's side. For the women, USC wins. TT Terry and that 4x1 team, shout out to them. Anna Cockrell. There was a lot of people that turned the doubles. A lot of athletes won 2 events. I noticed this when I was doing my notes. Anna Cockrell completes the hurdles double, wins the 100-meter hurdles, wins the 400-meter hurdles. So shout out to Anna, shout out to TT Terry, even though she came into second, to something I'm about to talk about. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the fact that Dwayne Ross should be your National Coach of the Year in track and field. Absolutely no question. Listen, I know LSU's head coach, USC's head coach. I understand they won the national championships. But Dwayne Ross and what he has done for this North Carolina A&T program, shout out to the 336, ladies and gentlemen. If you are an athlete in the state of North Carolina and you are a track athlete and you want to come get developed and you want to come win championships, come to A&T. Come to Greensboro. Come to Aggieland. Come be an Aggie. Dwayne Ross and that A&T program will get you right. I'm not getting paid to do this, but this is simply out of pride for my father's alma mater in a school I spent so much of my youth at. They got it done. They put on for the 336. They put on for HBCUs. And if you're a track athlete in North Carolina, come to A&T. We are going to get you right. We are going to get you right. They were the only school to finish top 5 in both the men's and women's. I gotta give a shout out to some standout athletes. Randolph Ross with the world lead and the national championship in the 400 meters with that 43.85, way faster, by the way, than Michael Norman's 44.27, which had been the world lead. Randolph with the new world lead with that 43.85. They also won in the 4x4. They have the fastest time in the world for that. So shout out to that 4x4 team that's been dominant all year. Cambria Sturgis did the 100-200 double. She's been phenomenal all year. She broke the meet record, fastest all conditions, 10.74. I think that's the 4th fastest I think I heard all year. So yeah, Sturgis, she's been great. She's been great. Only a sophomore. Her and Randolph, only sophomores. I don't expect them to go pro this year. So they should be back and even better next year. But yeah, shout out to A&T. Big time, doing big time things. Big time things. And to kind of finish up here on the track, we had, for Oregon, we had the distance runners. I've talked about them all year. Cooper Tier, Cole Hawker did what they did in that distance area. Not dominant wins, but I had to listen. They're built different. The way they kicked, both of them, it's like they were both programmed to just turn into 200-meter runners in that last bell lap. As soon as they hit 200 meters left, the writing was on the wall, and they just got to hawking, and then they put some distance on the second place finishers. So shout out to Tier and Hawker. Great seasons for them. Who else do I have here on my notes? Ting Mew. How could I not talk about Ting Mew? Fastest, collegiate record in the 400 meters with that 49.57. She's been, we've expected it all year. It was coming, and it happened. It feels like she broke that record multiple times throughout the year. I'm pretty sure she did. And then she had the fastest split recorded at the national championships ever in the 4x4, in which A&M broke the record there with the 48.85. She's built different. The 4x4 teams for the U.S. this year are going to be ridiculous for both the men's and women's. I think Ross should be on it for the men's. I think Mew should be on it for the women. You can let me know your feelings about that. But yeah, track season over. Now time for the U.S. Olympic trials. Well, track season not over. Collegiate track season is over. But U.S. Olympic trials, will be on the lookout for that. I cannot wait for that. Cannot wait for the Olympics. Should be some good stuff there. Should be a lot of great events, a lot of great challenges. I really like this generation we got coming up. But yeah, shout out to LSU, shout out to USC, and Aggie Pride. All right, and with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the Roundup. We have reached the Roundup. I've completed all my notes. I said it was going to be a long one. Thank you if you are still sticking around. If you skipped to the Roundup, welcome. We're talking about tennis and baseball and softball a little bit at the end there. Novak Djokovic, to stop us. Or Stefanos Tsitsipas. So close to making a massive jump for this new generation of tennis. So close. But he choked. And Joker did what Joker did. He wins number 19. He becomes the third man to win the career slam twice over. Yeah, Novak. What more can we say? He's the number one player in the world, and now he's one Grand Slam away from probably being considered the greatest of all time. He's already the money leader. He's already got the most, WTP or ATP titles. Yeah, he gets this Grand Slam record. It's pretty much indisputable. Yeah, he'll be the GOAT. He unseated Nadal at Roland Garros. He's simply just built different. Joker, he has benefited. He has benefited from catching Fed and Nadal maybe at the closer to the end of their primes than really in their primes. But nonetheless, the Fab Four, including Andy in this, got to give a shout out to Andy Murray. But especially, I guess, the three at the top here have been absolute anomalies in the tennis game. And it's been a blessing to watch them work. Probably the three greatest tennis players of all time, before being honest. And yeah, Novak continues his pursuit of greatness. Huge win there. If we go to the MLB, which has really been put here into the Roundup because it's the same people every week, it feels, right? It's the same people. I can't really help it, though. Tatis, the Mets and the Padres were playing each other, and Tatis, Padres were in a little bit of a slump, but what does Fernando Tatis do every single week, it seems, on a Saturday or Sunday? He makes something happen that makes me talk about him every single time. A Grand Slam go-ahead here in the 7th inning. To push the Padres over the Mets. He continues his bid for NL MVP. In his biggest competition he faced this past week, Jacob deGrom continues to drop his ERA, and it's now at .56. Of course, we had that new report about, I forget exactly what, but whatever cream or oil that has been used by the pitchers. Sports Illustrated did that big thing about it. Garrett Cole had that nice little stutter that just totally looked completely, absolutely innocent. Definitely did not do it. Had the worst lie ever about it, and yeah, we'll see if that becomes a bigger thing, a bigger, story in baseball. I haven't seen the article yet, so I'm kind of slacking. I'll try to read it this week. But, Tatis and DeGrom do what they do. Superstars being superstars. The Blue Jays beat the crap. I mean, eviscerated the Red Sox 18-4. 8 home runs for them in this game. Vlad Jr. is really why I'm here to talk about this. He's hitting .344 with 21 home runs and 55 RBIs. And probably still holds all of those percentage that I talked about last week or the week before. Probably still holds all those. Listen, he's the MVP. He's taking that jump. He's taking it. And as a Yankees fan who we're already having a terrible season, it's not great to see. Not great to see. As a baseball fan, it's great. But as a Yankees fan, this is absolutely terrifying. Bo Bichette also hit a home run. He's looking like he's catching fire. The Blue Jays' young core is looking better by the day. Better by the day. It could get ugly. The class of college baseball this season has been Arkansas. They've only lost, up to really last week, 2 games heading into this NC State series. They were the number 1 team in the nation, ran through the SEC, which is considered the top conference for baseball. They've been dominant, utterly dominant. That dominance came to an end because NC State pulled off a massive upset. They lost by about 20 runs, I think, in game 1. I think it was like 23-3. It was, when you thought, okay, Arkansas, okay, geez, 23-3, this is going to be them walking through NC State. Well, that did not happen. State pulled off the upset in game 2. And then in the elimination game with Arkansas giving the bump to their best player, Kevin Kopps, and SEC Pitcher of the Year, and perennial and probably National Player of the Year favorite in Kopps, NC State showed up. Jose Torres put in the go-ahead, I think in the 8th inning, with the go-ahead solo home run. And yeah, NC State pulls off the massive upset, knocks off the number 1 team in the nation. We'll see how that goes. Vanderbilt, I know, dominant rocker, dominant against East Carolina. We'll see how that goes. We had softball season end this past week. Jocelyn Alo, the GOAT, the absolute GOAT. Oklahoma wins the Natty over FSU. She had 4 home runs in the College World Series as a whole. 2 against FSU. They get the win 5-1. But yeah, Jocelyn Alo, one of the best, quite possibly the best collegiate hitter in the history of college softball. Should be on Team USA in the Olympics. But yeah, shout out to Oklahoma on the win. Completely dominant. They showed out. Kyle Larson wins his 3rd straight race, I believe. He won the All-Star race, so it's not an official race, but that's his 3rd straight win. He's on fire right now in NASCAR if we want to talk about that. And I think that about covers everything. I told you it's going to be a long episode, but I think it was a very good episode. I had plenty to talk about. And yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great week. This is it for episode 45. It was a great week in sports. Hopefully this week is also another great week. We'll have plenty to talk about as conference finals go on in the NBA, in the NHL. And of course, like I said, we got Cambosis versus Teofimo Lopez. So plenty to talk about in combat sports. We'll see what happened in entertainment. We got Loki. But it's been a pleasure serving you yet again here. Continue to run up the numbers. I appreciate all the love, especially on TikTok with how viral that video went. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ocho signing off.